Roger Travis, back again with another snippet of lecture from Classics in Ancient Mediterranean Studies 1103, and if you can even come close to identifying what the place is in the print behind me, I think I'll give you a prize. I'll figure out who comes closest when a few people post.
Now that we know where these creation and succession myths fit into the mythic tradition, above all as represented in epic, we can start talking about their content. And there's an extraordinarily important concept that should be introduced at this point, the concept of syncretism. The best definition for syncretism, I think, is the harmonizing of different, sometimes conflicting myths into a single narrative. Now, what does that mean? Well, it basically just means taking two stories and jamming them together into a form where it runs more or less as a story that is comprehensible. We're going to see tons and tons of examples of syncretism as we move through all of the myth in this course, but my favorite example with which to introduce the concept is actually from the Star Wars saga. And the syncretism that I'm thinking of is the syncretism between the narrative of what's now part 4 of Star Wars, that is, Star Wars A New Hope, wherein it's pretty clear, at least to me, that Darth Vader is not yet Luke's father, or else Obi-Wan Kenobi's narrative to Luke doesn't make a lot of sense about how a young Jedi who was a pupil of mine named Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father. That's story 1, and then the story in The Empire Strikes Back, now known as Part 5, in which Darth Vader famously says, "Luke, I am your father." Well, the syncretism actually happens in Part 6, Return of the Jedi, when Obi-Wan Kenobi has to explain to Luke how it was that he actually ended up lying to Luke. And the syncretism is, of course, when that's harmonized into Obi-Wan saying, well, in a certain sense, actually, he kind of did betray and murder your father because the old Anakin Skywalker died that day. Well, we know now, and you learn at the end of Return of the Jedi, that that isn't really quite true, because that old Anakin Skywalker is still there under the Darth Vader mask. So the syncretized version is that version in Return of the Jedi in which the conflicting stories of A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back are jammed together into a more or less harmonized narrative. It's really helpful to look at the material we have in chapters 3, 4, and 5, which is mostly from the Hesiodic Theogony, as produced by a rather amazing process of syncretism, whereby the Hesiodic bards took things from all sorts of different sources, some of them Greek, some of them Near Eastern, it appears, and put it together into this amazing connected narrative of creation and succession. And most importantly, the way that the transition is made from creation to succession, the way we get from chaos to Gaia to the Titans and finally to the Olympians with that titanic battle, literally titanic battle, between the Titans and the gods. All of that is drawn together from various sources and put together into a narrative that sometimes really shows the joins between the different parts that went into its makeup. One of the most important elements to bring out in this syncretized version of creation and succession is one of the elements that the Hesiodic tradition almost certainly got from Near Eastern traditions that had come from Asia Minor, and that is the narrative of the Hieros Gamos, the sacred marriage between the Sky Father and the Earth Mother. And in the Theogony, that's obviously, above all, the one between Uranos, whose name means heaven, and Gaia, whose name means earth. In its most basic form, this narrative of a sacred marriage is a way of talking about the relationship between human sexuality and the continuation of the universe. Here's the way Aphrodite herself, the goddess of sex, describes it in a tragedy that's otherwise almost completely lost. This is a tragedy called the Danaids. Aphrodite is defending a young woman who failed to kill her husband, as her father had commanded on their wedding night. All of the rest of the daughters of Danaus killed their husbands, but this one, Hypermestra, did not. And Aphrodite is serving as her lawyer, more or less. And in order to justify Hypermestra not killing her husband, she says, The holy heaven desires to wound the earth, and the earth yearns to join in moist marriage, and of their love are born the tree season and food for flocks. For these things I am responsible. Why is Aphrodite responsible? Well, what she's saying is that the universe has sex just the way that people do. Aphrodite is the goddess of sex, and the holy heaven, the sky father, has sex with the earth, and out of that is born the fertility of the entire world, food for flocks and the tree season. The sacred wedding is about cosmic sex. And to demonstrate that this theme continues to run through all of Western culture, I want to illustrate it with a clip from Ang Lee's wonderful movie with the screenplay by Emma Thompson, Sense and Sensibility. What I want you to look for in this clip is that same relationship between the sexuality of human beings and a kind of metaphorical, mythic, rooty thing, sexuality of the entire world.
Is there any felicity in the world superior to this? I told you it would rain. There's the blue sky. Let us chase it. I'm not supposed to run. Are you hurt? Margaret, I do not think I can walk. You must run and fetch help. I'll run as fast as I can.
Don't be afraid. He's quite safe. Are you hurt?
Only my ankle.
May I have your permission to ascertain if there are any breaks? It is not broken. Now, can you put your arm about my neck? Allow me to escort you home.
Without a doubt, the most erotic ankle rub in the history of cinema.
It's a twisted ankle.
Do not be alarmed, Mamma.
I can assure you it's not serious. I took the liberty of feeling the bone and it's perfectly sound.
Sorry, I cannot even begin to thank you.
Please do not think of it. I'm honoured to be of service.
Please, will you not be seated?
Pray, excuse me, I have no desire to leave a watermark. But permit me to call tomorrow afternoon and inquire after the patient.
We shall look forward to it.
Most kind.
I'm sure you are.
Thank you.
Margaret, take the gentleman his hat.
Thank you.
Please, could you tell us we are so much obliged?
John Willoughby of Allenham at your service, Mark.
John Willoughby of Allenham. What an impressive gentleman. He lifted me as if I were no more than a dried leaf. Is he human? Sorry if I hurt her.
She feels no pain, Mamma. Margaret, ask Betsy to make up a cold compress, please. Quickly as you can.
Oh, please don't say anything important.
Gone.
Did you see him? He expressed himself well, did he not?
With great decorum and honour.
And spirit and wit and feeling.
And economy. 10 words at most.
And he is to come tomorrow.
Marianne, you must change. You will catch a cold.
What care I for cold when there is such a man?
You will care very much when your nose swells up.
You are right. Help me, Eleanor.